Octo is pleased to bring you this Planner Unplugged series in partnership with Scottish Widows, focused on helping advisors deliver better outcomes for clients today and in the future. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Planner Unplugged from Octo members. I'm Katie Pigden, Content Director, and as ever, I'll allow my guests to introduce themselves if that's okay. So Emma, over to you.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm excited. I'm Emma Bird. I'm a financial planning director working in Hansford Bell. I have been with Hansford Bell now for 10 years, started my career in the banking industry for my sins, quickly saw the light, as they say, and found Hansford Bell. Yeah, so I've been here, started with the
Emma, you look like you must have started as a child, but talk me through a little bit about the banking career then. How did you get into that in the first place, and what made you see the light, as you put it?
So I started university, and I was one of those where I didn't really know what to do. So I just thought, well, I'll go into university, I'll do business studies, and then we'll just see where it takes us. And then through that, I did a little bit of finance within like the business course, and I got really interested in particular in the finance bit. So I thought, come out of university, finance, banking, and that's how the correlation went in my head. Went into banking for all of the negatives from working in a bank, and I'm not here to slate them whatsoever. The one amazing thing that I took from it was the training. So if anything that I gained from where I am now, the training in the banks really did help me. The one thing with the banking that I wasn't so keen was the target sales driven side of things. It was quite pressured. And some people thrive in that industry. I personally didn't like it. I didn't like that salesy aspect to banking. I just wasn't a fan. So that's how I started. I learned a lot, but I was put down the management side of things quite a lot. And whilst management is great, I wanted to concentrate more on finances. And even though that the bank I worked for had financial advisors that would just sell their sort of restricted products, I tried to do my qualifications with the bank, but I felt like they were just trying to push me aside a little bit. So I thought, right, I need to take charge and go and find somewhere that I can really start to do what I love. And then I found Hansford Bell. So yeah, that's how banking came into it.
Fantastic. So how did that come about? And, making that leap then of, right, actually banking's not right for me, a good grounding, good starting point, but I want to focus on the bit I enjoy the most.
Yeah. So I found Hansford Bell because they were local to me. I actually sort of grew up, sounds so like this is Hansford Bell in a nutshell. I knew who is the now managing director and my business partner. At the time, he wasn't a director and he worked as a financial planner here. I knew him. We grew up in the same village.
Right.
So Hansford Bell,
Oh.
I knew. Yeah. So I came for an interview because they were originally needing a mortgage advisor. So I came with no mortgage qualifications or finance qualifications whatsoever, with Chris and one of the directors at the time, and just said, I'm willing to learn. I just want to put everything into it. And they luckily took me on, and I did all of my mortgage qualifications with Hansford Bell, headed the mortgage department. And then I sort of then thought, right, love mortgages, but I'm still wanting to do the financial advice, financial planning side, and where I was quite involved within the company. And we're all friends, we're a close knit. So a lot of the people that I worked with were doing the financial planning, and I was really attracted to it. I really loved the whole ethos of financial planning for clients. So it's like mortgages, yep, I can help clients, but just that little bit extra. So I did all of my financial advice qualifications with Hansford Bell, and then became a planner.
Fantastic.
And that's where yeah.
So what was your understanding of financial planning before you entered a business that did specialize in it? Was you aware of it when you was at school? Was you aware of it when you were doing your degree? Obviously, you had that finance element of the business side of things, but was it something you'd come across in that sense?
Actually, I didn't come across, I'd heard of financial advice. So financial advisors do the pensions, do the investments, it's sort of like bog standard, but the actual planning side of it, I hadn't come across until I'd come to Hansford Bell. And we'd have these meetings where everybody would be involved and they would speak about financial planning, because the people at the time, I didn't have clue what financial planning was. I just started as a mortgage advisor with no sort of qualifications, and Chris was helping me through that process. And I remember sitting in a meeting with everybody, and Chris did a presentation on financial planning and the process of it. And I was like, why is no one else doing this? But they were. I just wasn't aware of it. Actually, in the grand scheme of things, when I started sort of 10 years ago, not everybody was doing financial planning. They were just advisors, and they weren't actually planning for clients. They were just order takers, really. And the financial planning, I just thought, completely flipped it on its head. And it was, what right do we have as individuals to tell you what to do with your money until we know more about you, what you want it to do, and how then it's going to service you? So it's sort of, I want to do this, I need this, but actually, how are we going to get there, and what's the end point? And that's what really drew me to financial planning. Other than working here, no, I just thought financial advice was pensions and investments, really.
I think it's a reflection of sort of society, really. Probably if we ask the average person, you might be lucky if they even gave you that definition of financial advice in terms of the pension side of things. People know of accountancy and they might talk about that, but I don't think people know it's necessarily a profession that you can come in and join and learn as you go and do those qualifications maybe and learn from others within the organization. You know, we've got a bit of a challenge on our hands there with the so-called advice gap, and maybe it should be a planning gap that we're talking about a bit more, and that might make more sense to people as well.
Absolutely. And I think with the financial advice world, I think a lot of people look at finance and think, that's not for me. I don't do that. I have to be a brain box. I have to be super intelligent. Or dare I say it, they may even say that it's a bit boring. And actually, that's not the case at all. I think that when you look at the financial advice profession, yes, you need to be willing to learn because you need to pass through the qualifications. But until you start learning, you don't need to know anything prior to that. So there's no pressure around knowing anything before. You've just got to have the willing to learn, the willing to do it. And most importantly, you need to like people.
Yes.
If you don't like people,
Not the job.
it's just not going to work. You need to be able to have that relationship, and people need to trust you at the end of the day. So a lot of people, young people that want to get into this industry, like you say, probably don't even think that it's something for them because they either think that they can't do it or they're not aware of what it is. And I think there needs to be more within that gap of not only getting, because, it's so apparent there's not many women in the profession. In fact, to 18% of the whole financial profession are women. Happy to say that we are women heavy within Hansford Bell, which is great. Don't get me wrong. We love everybody that's working for us, but we love the fact that we've got a female dominant office. So we're helping towards that statistic, but actually just young people in general not knowing enough. I think it's so important that needs to change. And whether that be going into schools, sixth form, colleges, and making people understand what financial planning and what financial advice, that sort of career looks like. I think more people would be interested because it is not just bog standard boring. You're learning about people's lives, what they want to do, what they want to achieve. It's an amazing job to have. And then not only that, but being able to help that individual get there is a dream for me. I love it.
We had a couple of guests on the podcast recently, sisters running their own planning business, and they took part in an event live on stage demonstrating what financial planning was to an audience made up of their peers. So people potentially going, oh, they do it like that, or I do it like this, or, challenging that. The wider industry, but most importantly, newcomers, potential school leavers, university people. And the event from the Landcap was replicated in London. I went along recently, so then got to witness the next round of financial planners on stage. And one thing that really struck me was exactly what you said, that getting to know that person. Now, admittedly, this was an actor on stage. The audience got to choose the scenario. So it meant the planners had absolutely no idea what they were going to be presented with, what this person's situation was. But one thing I noticed was the questioning of getting to know that person and finding out what else? What's keeping you awake at night? What's your attitude towards this? What do you want to do? And we were quite some way into this before money even came up in the conversation. And it was fascinating to watch. And I thought, probably very daunting to be demonstrating that on stage to this audience. But what a fantastic way for those university students to actually see. So if you are thinking, I don't know, it's not really the right thing for me, or I'm not great with numbers, or, all this perception that we might have. Like we said, we've got the struggle of whether people know about it in the first place. If they then have heard about it or they've been asked about it, what's their understanding of it? And I think that can be very different from what the reality is.
I think you're absolutely right. And what a fantastic way to show that. If I'd known about it, I would have been there, because I just think that's so interesting, and what a way to try and demonstrate it as well. I remember when I was doing my exams, I struggled to read it from a book and then actually do it. And that's how you get the qualification, which, if you're going straight into that, that might put some people off. But if you went and saw that demonstration and saw the actual job in play and then went and did your exams, you'd sort of know, look, I just need to get through this bit. I need to get the understanding and the groundwork's there. But this is just a tiny element of what I'm going to need to actually help me along the way and do the planning role. So yeah, I love that idea.
One thing that was interesting was they interviewed some of the younger people, and videos came up on the stage, on the screen. And the perception was, well, it is a male dominated profession. I'm probably going to have someone in a navy or grey suit come and talk to me, maybe talk at me, not explain necessarily these things and the jargon. And I thought that's fascinating. But as you pointed out, there are not as many females, women advisors in the profession as we would like. How can we open that up and try and demonstrate the benefits of it? Obviously, you're really happy where you are, you're loving it, enjoying what you're doing. How can we spread that message a little bit further as well? So we know we want the young people in, but potentially second careerists as well. It's not just by all means, okay, straight out of university, come in, but you may have done a career somewhere else and then could bring in some skills to the profession.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be honest, in the day and age that we live in now, it's got to be in front of people's faces for them to recognize it now, especially in the
Yeah.
world of social media. If you want something, you can get it instantly. So it could well be that doing these demonstrations is a perfect way of getting people into it, because it's there, it's in front of their face, they can physically see it. Or could we then try and do something more around social media and use it to our advantage? I'm really trying to use LinkedIn a lot more, just to push that out there. I know LinkedIn is sort of business to business, it can be,
Yeah.
but essentially you're going to have a lot of people leaving university or in university. They're going to go straight to LinkedIn and try and build a profile and get an idea of different things there. So it could well be doing things like this today, like this podcast. It's a great way of getting the message out there and showing women and men, of course, because we want to incorporate everyone. It's just it's facts, not many women in the profession. And I think we've got a lot to add to run alongside men within the profession, so there's more diversification in it. I just think, yeah, but I think in order to get it out there, we need to be doing more conferences. Do we need to get in colleges and things like that? Yes, probably, absolutely. Using social media to the best of our advantage as well, for sure.
Yeah. How are you finding that with that growing LinkedIn and putting content out there? Because we can be really good at the bit that we do of our job, but there's all these other strands to it now. We're all suddenly these content creators and we're all trying to grow audiences in that way.
I know it, and it is unnatural. To me, it's unnatural. From a personal side, I'm not a massive social media poster anyway. So when you're doing it from like
Yeah.
a business side, you are wanting to show your personality as well. So sometimes it's a struggle to come up with ideas. I Hansford Bell work with a marketing agency that help us with ideas and things to post, as well as us creating it ourselves. So it's unnatural, but I think you've just got to do it. And you just cannot be afraid of, because it is always, you put something out and think, oh God, what people are going to, am I like going to send out the right message? What are they going to think? You've just got to do it, haven't you? And the more you do it, you've just got to be consistent and present. And that's how we discovered each other, was through LinkedIn, through social media, you've been really present and consistent. I saw it, I loved it, and I thought, yeah, I want to be a part of what you're doing. So it
I'm
obviously
very,
worked.
very grateful you did, Emma. Thank you. And always looking to sort of share those stories. And like you said, it's not just necessarily women. For me, I've loved hearing from people of all walks of life, all different ages, all different backgrounds. But most of them stumbled into financial planning because, as we know, people don't know about it from the start. But that love for it and that trying to help clients and get the best out of their life now and in the future just seems fascinating, really. So I'm really pleased that we were in touch and that is working. But you're right, that comfort zone, a lot of planners have been saying that as well, that it's just the first bit of content you put out is not going to be great. Maybe the second and third aren't going to be perfect either. What is? And I think we're all a lot more accepting nowadays as well, whether it was the pandemic, this way of interacting has taken off a lot more. People are open to that. And yeah, we're all sort of putting ourselves in that vulnerable situation sometimes of how's that going to land? How's that going to be received? But I think for a client point of view as well, getting a sense of, oh, who is this person? Who is Emma? Oh, it'd be great to talk to her. And actually, yes, I do have that headache that I've been wanting someone to help me with, and that pension problem and things that I, don't really want to open that document because I don't know what it all means. Someone else doing that for you.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
you mentioned when you were at the bank, it was more that restricted advice that you could see in operation. Where you are now, what's that setup, Emma?
Yeah, so it's very different to the bank. We are so fully independent. So independent in the financial advice world means that we can work with who we want to, so long as they want to work with us, essentially. And it then gives us, as a planner, as an advisor, to ensure that we are giving our clients the best service. And I think that is more and more, as this industry grows, the independent side of things getting smaller and smaller, which is such a shame. And our managing director, Chris, he speaks really passionately about this, and we're all just as passionate about it. He probably speaks the loudest about it out of all of us. Financial planners being able to actually just do their job and give the right advice. And what we find is that there may be restrictions from regulators, from providers, from ourselves. There are restrictions that then are put in place that means that we can't help the clients in the same way that we want to. And we are really passionate about keeping that independence, no matter whether you're a one-man band as a financial planner or you're a bigger company, and not having those sort of ties to hold you back.
Do you feel there's room in the market for both to play, though? Obviously, everyone has their own business model, what's right for them, equally what's right for the client. That independence is very important to them. Then I'm sure that's something that they look for when they are seeking that service. Where we've said about people not knowing about it in the first place, does this all seem quite confusing? If I do pick a financial advisor or planner, have I got the right one? Have I gone down the right route? How do I know? What does that look like?
Yeah. And whether you're restricted or independent doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the right or the wrong advice. If you're with a qualified financial advisor, you're always going to be getting the correct advice from a regulatory standpoint. It's just actually, if you're working for a bank, for example, you can only advise on the bank's products. So you're restricted in the advice that you can give to a client with respects to that certain financial product. Whereas if you're independent, you can then service a client a lot more holistically because you can do everything. You can spin all of the plates for them, whereas restricted, more or less, it can be quite a tunnel visioned aspect, which is absolutely fine for some people. And that doesn't mean that that's the right or wrong thing. I think and I could be speaking out of turn, but for me as a planner, I want to be able to service that client completely and do everything for them if I can.
Yeah.
And so having that independence is really important.
And now for a few words from our content partner, Scottish Widows.
Scottish Widows is focused on clearer outcomes and fast decisions. Our new underwriting outcome tool, using the same rules as our application journey, gives you an indicative view before you start, and we deliver instant outcomes in over 7 out of 10 cases. Our new business dashboard keeps every case visible in real time, so you spend less time chasing and more time advising. For more information about Scottish Widows and the support it provides to advice firms, speak to our business development team by emailing protectsales@lloydsbanking.com.
Jargon's come up a few times in the conversations that I've been having. And how well do you think the financial services industry, maybe as a whole, is doing on that? Can that be off-putting to the end client? Is that one of the barriers of people going to get advice because it does feel like this language that you can't always understand or get to grips with?
Yeah, absolutely. It's intimidating. If you're going into something and you don't understand it and there is jargon that's being thrown about that anybody is meant to understand, it's going to be super intimidating, which I don't like. I like to strip it all back and try and put myself in a client's position where I know nothing. Because I say to clients, I want to really put it in layman's terms, not because I think you won't understand it, but because I want you to understand it and I want you to feel open to ask any questions along the way. Because if I see a client who is a dentist or a builder or anything, I'm not going to know how to build a house.
No.
I'm not going to know any of the information that they would absolutely know because they do it day in, day out. I'm not going to know any of the terminology that a dentist would use, that they would use because they use it day in, day out. It's exactly the same for us. So that financial terminology that we may all understand because we do it day in and day out, it is intimidating to somebody who doesn't do it. So I'll always say, ask me any questions along the way. I want to make it as easy for both me and you as possible because I know I do this day in, day out. I know what I'm doing and I'm here to help you also understand that journey as well. Because we're in it together.
I was so right. Every industry is guilty of having its own jargon. When you are sat in the dentist chair, sometimes it's fascinating. What are they saying? What does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? Obviously, I don't need to know at that point, but afterwards they will explain to you in a way that makes sense to you. And that's the thing, isn't it? Of making sure that language gets translated to when you do need to know something or do something about it, you do understand. I know as a journalist, we used to use our own jargon as well. And it's only when someone's new to the profession that you think, oh, hold on, go back a few steps. Do you remember when you didn't know what those things meant? And now you're just using it in everyday language. Just take that time to explain to someone. I think it also shows you understand it a lot more then if you can explain it to someone, not in a patronizing way, but like you said, just making sure that they feel comfortable to ask the questions that they want to. Because one thing I was going to ask you, Emma, is when people have then come to seek financial planning to get that advice that they require, is there sometimes a tendency for them to give the answers that they think people want to hear? Or do they think it is just about the very technical aspect of things? Love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've got a mix, to be honest. But I think it's also probably dependent on the person that sat in front of them from the client's perspective. So if I went as a planner and started right into the technical jargon, they would probably mirror it because that's what people do. Mirrors, especially in unknown environments or new people that we meet, we try and mirror. So I try not to even speak about anything technical at first. It is all about what they want and how they want the conversations to go as well. Obviously, they know they're coming to a qualified financial planner. They probably looked me up by that sense. But when I first meet with them, a lot of the time they're mirroring me. So it is sort of very on a personal base and we can get the jargon either out of the way or the technical bit can come way later. We don't even need to think about that. It's actually, right, okay, let's cut this bit because we don't need to think about that. Let's talk about you, where you want to be, and then we'll take it from there. But yeah, it all depends. But if a client will come quite technical, I'll try and slow it and take it back to a time where we're just talking about them because they're the most important thing. The technical is the technical side. That will come. It's just getting to know them first.
Yeah, and everyone's got their own things that they want to do and what they want to achieve. Seeing financial planning live, one thing I realized was I think people don't always know what those answers are as well until you probe that little bit further. One thing I noticed the planner kept saying was, what else? What else? What else? And, it was probably by the time they got to the 5th or 6th iteration of that, She referred to it as striking gold when I was speaking to her afterwards. But that's the thing that's driven this client here. And maybe them having that space to articulate that and to feel comfortable, because sometimes we don't know, and that future version of ourselves can seem quite scary because we don't know this person yet. We haven't met them. We don't know what they want. I'd imagine it changes a lot as you go as well. Do you view it as that journey with the client? Like you said, you're in this together. How does that look like for you once they have come in and said, right, Emma, help me with this?
I just think the client, like you said, that strike gold moment, you finally got to the point of what they're actually wanting to achieve. A lot of clients will come in and be like, I've got this pension or I've got this ISA, can you have a look at it? Any burning questions? Yes, absolutely. Let's have a little look. Any questions that you've got, let's answer them. Right, okay. They're answered. Yes, I can definitely help you with that. But now let's take it back and talk about you. And then you'll see that they relax because they've got their burning question out of the way and they can really open up. And it is a journey, and some are quicker than others, but people's lives are different and what they want out of lives are different. And I think to speak about finances anyway can be quite difficult. Even if you're sat in front of a financial planner, it's just not natural to everybody.
We don't do it in our own families either, do we? So money, well, that's a bit tricky.
Yeah, it's a bit of a taboo even sometimes. So it's sort of taking the emphasis away from money and talking about that client. And then you see their shoulders relax because everybody can speak about themselves. Everybody loves to speak about themselves. So
Yeah.
it's getting that information. And I love to listen. I love gaining stories about clients' lives. So it works.
Absolutely. When I was previously an editor, any of the reporters that came through in the press, how do you speak to these CEOs sometimes? And, there's these scary people. They are just people as well. They're human. Find something about them, put them at ease at the beginning, ask them about themselves before you then launch into maybe some of those more tricky questions that they might not feel as comfortable answering. But it is trying to build that rapport. Sometimes you have a short amount of time to do that. Obviously, with what you're doing, you're getting to know, and probably each meeting that you have with that client, maybe you're finding out something different that you didn't know in that very first meeting, and how you go about that fact find and all of those wonderful things when you're building up that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny as well when you've got a husband and wife and then they actually start speaking and then they realise they're like, I didn't know that you wanted that. Oh, I didn't realise you wanted that. Sometimes it's a little bit like, well, I think I'll just stand to let them hash that out for a minute, but it all works out fine.
How important is that to you actually, Emma, when you are advising a client, if there is a partner, a husband, wife, whatever setup that looks like, to involve them in the process?
I think if there is a partner, husband, wife there, I would always encourage them to be involved just so that you can get the full picture. But I fully appreciate that not everybody feels 100% comfortable with that and they just want to deal with themselves, which is fine. We can still do that. But sometimes if you've got a single person that's in a joint household, then getting the cash flow element, and that's more like from a technical side, may not be as tailored because actually they're splitting the bills and things. If that the other individual isn't there, then that you're sort of making up those figures. When you're looking at planning people's lives and they're in a joint couple, it's so important that they're both doing it together because essentially, I mean, the main element that you speak about with clients is retirement. Really, that's the golden nugget that everybody really wants to know: is that have I got enough? When can I retire? Am I going to be able to do what I want when I retire? And I always say, well, if you're planning to retire with your partner, I suggest they come along because you can then make sure that you're both on the right track and on the right path.
Yeah, you're right. I've had another advice say previously as well. Like you said, that there's that realization, no, hold on. My idea of retirement looks very different to yours. Maybe they need to go away and have that other conversation. But getting to know it, and maybe it has been because it's been such a taboo subject that we don't talk about it or we feel uncomfortable. Obviously, everyone's going to have different scenarios of whether they are very actively talking about the finances all the time and working out what that looks like, to, oh no, this is mine, or that's my vision of something, or yeah, I want to get this camper van, or I want to go traveling. Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm
Really?
saying. together, or are we not? How does that look like? But no, it's fascinating to see those journeys. You mentioned cash flow modeling, and that's something that comes up quite a lot as well. And at this event, I think for the first time ever, I saw cash flow modeling on a big screen, and it really did help bring it to life and paint that picture of, okay, well, if we make this adjustment here or we tweak this here, that's what that's going to look like. How important of a tool is it for you when you are advising clients?
I think the cash flow is what is the piece of glue that, or the puzzle piece that brings it all together. Because you've got this 3-stage process in financial planning for us. You have the first part, which is the life planning element. You get to know the client, what they want. The second part is putting all of the financial details into the cash flow. And that is when you can see what their current life is and then start to build in what they want through the learning of the life planning into that forecast to see if financially it works. And that is when it comes to life, because you can then put the dream, the ambition into a financial aspect and see if it works or not. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, what can we then do to try and put things in place to try and make that work? Whether that be a financial product that we can introduce then as a part of the advice side, great. Or it could be actually more managing what they've currently got.
How challenging can those conversations be? Because like you said, when it works, great. I'm sure those people sat in front of you like, oh, fantastic. So pleased. So come to see Emma. That's taken a weight off my shoulders that I'm going to be okay, or I'm on the right track. Obviously, probably reassess as we go. But if it's more of the, as it currently stands, that's not going to work quite as well as you'd hoped. What do you do then?
So actually, it's those clients that I get the most fulfillment off when I'm doing my role. Because do you know what? It's fantastic if a client comes in and everything they've got is going to work fine and they're going to live the lifestyle that they want. Great. But those types of clients don't necessarily need me to tell them that. They probably already knew it themselves.
Something correct along the way.
And it's the clients that this is what they want. They have no clue whether it's going to get them there. We've then recognized through the cash flow planning that do you know what? It's not going to work if we just stay as we are right now. But that's when we can then do the investigative work where we can try and put a plan together in place and come up with ideas to then make it work. Or if it really doesn't work, then what are the alternatives? So, okay, you want to retire 10 years early. No matter what we do, it's not going to be achievable. But why don't we look at this? Why don't we look at you reducing your work hours so you can strike more of a work-life balance? Let's feed that into the cash flow. Look, that works. So it's finding the alternatives when it's not going to work essentially from what they're doing, but it's finding a way. And I'll always find there will always be a way. There will always be an alternative. And that's amazing. And showing that to a client through a cash flow and through their financial plan, it is great. It's never going to be a, no, you can't do that. It's going to be, not right now. Let's look at this. What can we look at then that would still be a happy medium?
Often people talk about that purpose in retirement as well. So if you have come in thinking, well, I want to retire 10 years earlier than the standard, I suppose is part of your role finding out why. What is it? Is it your job that you don't like currently? Is it the lifestyle that you've got at the moment? Because retirement feels like this wonderful thing and I'll have all this time, but how are we going to use it? If you have been used to working, that can then feel very, very different. So I suppose that purpose and just trying to find out, okay, why that date? Why are you fixated on retiring at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the conversations that you have along the life planning side. So right at the beginning of the whole concept, you'll try and understand why there are certain things that the client wants to do or wants to achieve. And I always say it's all well and good wanting to retire early, but what are you going to do? Like, what is it you want to do in retirement? Because if you're going to firstly retire early, you're going to hopefully be young enough and fit enough to go and do some things, but you need to make sure that you've got the finances to then be able to provide you to do those things. You get to learn a lot about a client and why they want certain things, which again is another part of the job that I love. And if we can make it work, then it's even better.
What parts of the job do you not like so much, Emma? What's the frustration? Either as the wider profession that advisors feel that they need more support in this area, or a particular thing that, or financial services could be doing better for clients, perhaps as well.
Yeah, I think if you sat every planner and advisor down, they would be able to list a massive stream of things that's not quite right within the industry. And if that's going to take me back to talking around that independent side of things. Independent isn't necessarily about the advice that you can give, whether it's independent or restricted. It's actually about what that planner advisor feels like they can do. So I think now what we're finding is that the one-man bands or the smaller firms are being bought out by big consolidator firms, and then they're losing their personality. The firm's personality is going. If you think it's like, for example, if Hansford Bell now, so one of the shareholders, directors here, if we then decided to sell out to a big consolidator firm, I feel that Hansford Bell would completely lose everything that we've worked up to do. So for us, as a small, medium, independent firm, we pride ourselves in our clients being the number one. Without them, we don't exist, really. And I feel like with these big consolidators coming in and buying out these smaller independent firms, they're taking away the ethos, the core of that company. And if you were to ask any financial planner why they got into the job, I would say the majority of them would say it's because they love helping people be able to achieve what they want to achieve. And their clients are the main aspects of that. And when you take away that independence from a firm, the client loses out, which is such a shame. And we want to be that some point for firms to say, we want to be able to keep our independence, our reputation, and these restrictions come from all angles. They really, really do. Whether it could be regulatory, like I said, sometimes it's yourself, it's time. There's everything there that's sort of holding you back. There's the markets. That's always an uncomfortable conversation to have. If the markets are being extremely volatile, which there are points of the year they have been, but again, it's having that trust and being able to put that effort and trust into that client, that when there is times of volatility, they're not too worried because they trust you and you can have that conversation about it. So I think a frustration for a lot of advisors out there at the minute is just not being able to breathe, not being able to do what they want and service all of their clients. And I think there's so many compounding aspects on it, which is why Hansford Bell are trying to wave the independence flag, really, and try and get as many as advisors and planners on board. And we sort of stick together. We can work together and try and make independence, great again.
On that though, because obviously consolidation is a big thing, something I've been writing about for a number of years. I know a lot of the consolidators probably don't like being referred to in such a way, and maybe their argument would be, okay, well, if someone is exiting, we're at least finding a home for those clients, and ultimately the clients will decide if that has been a suitable fit for them or not. But is part of the problem that advisors and planners are so much looking after clients that, are they thinking about their own, well, what happens when I exit this business in whatever way that may be? Because eventually you might be planning your own retirement. You've been helping other people on the way. So is it when the time comes for you to then take a step back? There's lots of different strategies, but is it, you've got to be focusing on the business so much in the here and now that maybe you don't have that eye on the future for your own?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get wrapped up in it, can't you? And then before you know it, you're approaching retirement and you think, oh God, what am I going to do with all my clients? I love them dearly. I want to make sure they're looked after, but I don't know where I can go. And there are companies and people that can help financial advisors find the right strategy for them in relation to if they did want to sell up. I'm not here to slate consolidators at all. They are fit for some purpose in relation to some situations, but I feel if I was to speak from Hansford Bell's point of view, and also some clients that have been on the receiving end of their financial advisor has been bought out by a consolidator and the effect that it's has on them, it's all well and good for a consolidator to say, we'll just take over it. And if the clients don't like it, then they can exit staged or left. But that's not what it's about. Actually, for a client to then go out and find another advisor is quite a task. They need to try and get that rapport and build that relationship with someone else. And if they've had the same relationship with the same advisor for so long, that can be a real big task. So it's it has a detrimental effect on all avenues. But speaking about potential exit strategies, there are people and companies that can actually help financial planners, advisors do those exit strategies in a way that they would feel most comfortable and finding the right exit strategy for them. I'm going to do a cheeky plug here, but it's always quite well into it. And we have created a conference for independent financial advisors to come along and be part of this community that we want to build. It's going to be a full CPD-able event as well. So we all love CPD.
Absolutely.
I've got a range of different speakers, but one of the speakers that we've got on board is a gentleman called Brian Hill. So he is going to be speaking. He's the founder of Pathfinders, and he is going to be speaking all things exit strategies for financial planners. So if there is anybody out there that's potentially listening to this podcast and wants to come along, it's going to be on the 16th of April this year. It's going to start at 9:30 and it's going to be in the Mercure Exeter Southgate Hotel. So we are based in Tavistock, but we fully appreciate that we're quite low down. So we've wanted to at least bring to Exeter. So there's an Eventbrite register. There's loads of people speaking. We've got some great, from all aspects actually, from model portfolio services to exit strategies to ethical strategies and sustainability and marketing. So it's all a big mix into one, but we want to invite all advisors and planners to come and be part of this community that we're wanting to build. It is our first one. We're hoping to do many more.
I was going to ask if this has been done previously. So that, there we go, the inaugural one.
Yeah, you've heard it here first. But it'll be all over my LinkedIn and obviously on the Octo once I can get it up there as well.
We'll certainly help get that event up there. But I think it does show, doesn't it? We mentioned that there's not having enough advisors in the profession, which obviously would go some way to help closing that advice gap. A lot of other things will come into play as well. Technology in some regard, targeted support. Be interested to get your views on that. Can that help eventually push people in the right direction for advice or not? But we do have an aging advisor population. So within the next few years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever that may look like, people will be exiting the profession in one way or another. So whether that is then they speak to the likes of Brian and then they find a suitable home for their business, whether that is the consolidators do come in and swoop up a few along the way, or whether we sadly might lose, I suppose, some of those businesses and names above the doors. We do have a challenge on our hands of we need to attract more people into the profession, but we know that we've got this point where more people are going to be leaving as well.
So I think it's a massive balancing act at the minute. We know that there's an advice gap. We know that there are thousands of people in the UK that have large sums of monies that don't have any advice support network at all. And then we do have this aging population of financial advisors. So it's sort of like the chicken and the egg. What do you do first? Where do you go? But then also about ensuring that the current planners within the industry have the support around them as well. And there are different setups that you can look at and try and do. But it's a really tricky one in order to try and drill down and say, where do you actually start?
Yeah. I think that you have those business questions as well, don't you? And what that looks like. And the targeted support angle, I'm like, okay, well, it might prompt people in the right direction, and potentially as people's needs become a little bit more complex. But I suppose, is there a fear of, is that going to stop people taking advice as well? That it could have that good intention of it's going to create that pipeline, or at least someone getting help if they wasn't getting any kind of help previously, and just wondered what advisors are thinking about this movement from the FCA that's been announced.
Yeah. I think it's the swing up between the execution only, just going on and doing what you think is right. And obviously there's a lot of artificial intelligence that's going to be involved as well. Somebody that's wanting to do quite a simple transaction may well be able to do that. They may not need the planning, and that they might be able to get what they want through that targeted support. That's absolutely fine. But I don't think it's then going to take away or overpower those individuals that need the people, that need that personal aspect, that need the planning. Artificial intelligence is up and coming. It's massive. And it's not to say that we can't use it within the profession. We absolutely do. And it has its purpose. And as a planner, I use artificial intelligence for note taking and things like that. So it absolutely has a purpose, and it saves me a lot of time that I can then go on and spend with clients. So I think the execution only targeted support is not something that worries me as a planner, because I feel it can service some people. It has a purpose, but the industry is big enough for us all to work together and be able to help more people, for sure.
Yeah, excellent. So what about your personal life, Emma? There's I believe you've got a little one keeping you busy as well, and we said about getting more women into the profession. So maybe you could talk about that balancing act that a lot of us are performing. Men as well, not discounting men, but potentially hearing from another female advisor of what that's like, and that balance that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a little boy who's 2.5. I've got a stepdaughter who is 11. So we've got a busy life. My husband as well is also in the military. So we have long periods of time where he's not even here.
Yeah.
In fact, it's only recently this week that I'm now lucky enough to have him home every night. But before then, for the last 2.5, however long I can remember, he's not around Monday to Friday. So
Wow.
if you can imagine, you're spinning a lot of plates, full-time working, young child, and everything else in between. So it is absolutely a juggle. It's a great juggle, don't get me wrong. When they say it takes a village, it really, really does. Like you say, we're not bashing men at all. I've got a fantastic, obviously, I love my husband and he's amazing. But a lot of it with that default sort of parent does predominantly lie on females. It does. And some men as well, but predominantly it is females. And I think if we think about the little women that is in the industry, so if we say between 16 and 18% in the financial services are women, if you then cut that down again as to how many of those women are mothers or have little running around, who knows? I would say quite a high percentage probably do. So we've got this pool of women that not only are being the financial advisors and trying to plan other people's lives, they're also trying to plan their own, which can be quite a struggle. But I love it. And I have days where I don't think I can do it again tomorrow, but you do, you get up and you have to carry on. But yeah, I would hate for any female wanting to get into the profession to be put off if they have children or if they want a family, because actually being a mum in this profession has helped me massively in my career. Because as a mother, you then learn so many unlearned lessons, and ones that you never thought that you would have to learn. You learn them quite quickly, patience being one of them.
Absolutely. And testing that sometimes as well.
Absolutely. Sometimes when I'm with a client and you're trying to take back the jargon and you're trying to put it in layman's terms and help them understand that, that's helped me massively. Not that trying to compare my clients to my 2-year-old, it's really not, but it is like having that background and being able to explain a lot more in layman's terms. It really does help. Patience helps in relation to not the client, but the working environment. When you're trying to do so much at one time, sometimes you need to take a step back and think, right, I need a breather here. I need to go and walk in another room, whether that be because my 2-year-old's having a tantrum or whether it's because I've got work emails coming out my ears and I don't know where to start. It's sort of taking that step back. But also empathy. Empathy is huge in our profession, especially with when you're dealing with people and their money and their finances. You need to be empathetic, and you have to be empathetic to a 2-year-old that doesn't know how to regulate their emotions. It's taught me a lot, and there are a lot of transferable skills as being a mum that I've been able to sort of put into this profession. So I would hate for anyone to think that if they are a mum or they have a family, they can't do it, because actually it would just enhance you. It helps you be a better person.
I've often heard people say it's a flexible option as well. Potentially you can be your own boss in this role. You can decide what your hours are, what that looks like. And also, I suppose some of the clients that you're finding out about, you're finding out about their families as well. What is it that's driving them? What are they wanting to do? Is it to help their children, small, grown up, anything in between as well? And obviously not every client's going to have children or have a sort of set up in that sense. But like you said, that empathy of finding out what their lifestyle involves, what's important to them, what are they hoping to do? Is there a legacy that they're wanting to leave behind for someone? And just getting people to open up a little bit more about their situation. You're so right. Trying to speak to this small person that's looking back at you and you're like, right, okay, how do I make this make sense to them? Or the questions that they're asking, I don't know if I have all the answers for that as well. And sometimes it's admitting that. And I'm sure there's examples in advice as well that maybe you don't have all the answers there and then for that person. You've done the training, got all the technical skills as well. You've probably covered a lot of different scenarios, but maybe something unique to that person. Hold on, let me go and find out for you and come back, or point you in the right direction of someone else that does have that. And sometimes I think we're scared of admitting that we don't have all the answers, but we don't always
Yeah.
have people.
We absolutely don't. And I think for me personally, as a parent, I'm winging half the stuff that I'm doing with my toddler.
Yeah.
I'm like, there is no manual with him at all.
Well, it's not as well. Even if there was, they won't have read it. They've chucked that out. We're not on the same page here as to what that looks, but also seeing the world through their eyes and the joy in the smallest of things that sometimes as adults we lose, unfortunately. So it's really nice to see that as well. Also, thinking a lot about money associations start from a young age, don't they? So your stepdaughter you mentioned as well, you sort of talking a little bit more about what your role entails and that relationship with me and starting that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important to get these the good intentions. They're always going to be there, especially when they're so young. There's never anything they're doing with bad intentions. It's might be a bit cheeky every now and then, but she's trying to learn her way just as much as what we are. And I think having a good conversation around money and how to save it as well, and how to use your own money is really, really important. So we don't want her to ever think that money just comes, because it really doesn't. So she has her jobs around the house, just like me and her dad did, like to earn her pocket money and things like that. So we are implementing that strategy very, very early on. She will ask what I do. I explain what I do, and she's like, okay. And then it goes off a bit. So I think at the minute for an 11-year-old, it's a bit like, But then when I go into a little bit more detail about the planning side and those sorts of conversations, that's when she can get really interested. And I'll relay it to her, and I'll say that the savings that she's got, what does she want to use those savings for? And then she'll say bubble tea on tap or something like that, or Starbucks. And I'll say, exactly. So I'm there to help you with your piggy bank, get you to a unlimited supply of Starbucks or bubble tea, whichever you want. So yeah, it's a good conversation to have with an 11-year-old for sure. But I think also giving her the confidence around money as well, to firstly ask questions about it, that it's not taboo, you can ask questions, but also to understand to understand money and the fact that it doesn't just come from nothing and you do have to work hard for things. And I relate it back to a story when, like, my first memory of money was me, 8 or 9, is saving all of my pocket money and my birthday money, and I'd saved it, saved. And then I went to a village fete, saw a tombola and blew it all in an afternoon. And I had nothing to show for it apart from like a bar of soap and a few ornaments.
Yeah, thanks.
Gutted. So I take that and I say to my stepdaughter often, it's really good to save, but have a plan in place, because you don't just want to get overexcited on something and just blow it, because you will be upset.
On that, Emma, so I sometimes ask people if they have a personal money rule that they live by. So we've had a little bit of a lesson there, but is there anything else as well, just as we're coming to an end?
Yeah. So again, don't gamble. It's not worth it. You'll just lose. But I think another money rule I would say is that everyone works so hard, and they all work hard because they want to live a certain type of life. And sometimes it can all be focused on the future. And it's really important to focus on your future, but also you don't know what the future brings. Anything could happen at any moment. So I would always say to anyone, have your future money fund and make sure that that's running along and ticking along. But also make sure that you're giving yourself a bit of a break and you're able to enjoy the money that you are working so hard for right now, so that you can be present in the moment and actually enjoy life. It's not all about working hard and not being able to enjoy it until you're retired. It's about that balance. Yeah, I would say planning is brilliant, but allow yourself a little bit of fun money, because if you don't have that, what's the point?
Sometimes are you giving clients that permission as such? Do they need that? Okay, yes, I can spend it. And also when they get to the retirement, I suppose there's that shift in the mindset. If you have been diligently saving and doing the right thing for your future, like, yep, that's what the plan was for. You can start using that.
It's okay. You can do it. Yeah, absolutely. So we do all of this work in relation to building up to retirement, and they retire and they're like, where am I going to get my money? I'm like, we've planned it. It's all good. You're fine. You can do it. You can do it.
Things we've had, yeah.
Or you get to a point where, you know, there's massive inheritance tax issues on people's estates where they've worked so hard and they've saved and they've done it extremely well, but now 40% of their estate is potentially going to go on tax. Do you know what? The best way to reduce that is to spend it. Spend it. Just enjoy it while you can. Like, for example, I spoke to a client this morning who needs a new computer. And they've been putting it off and off and off. And I just said, by our next meeting, I want you to be having your next Zoom appointment with me on your new computer. Please, you can afford it. Go and do it.
I'll have to get a follow-up from you, Emma, and check that they did follow that advice. But thank you so much for joining me. I've really appreciated it, and getting to know a bit more about you and what that's like as a financial planner.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, it's been amazing. Sorry if I've absolutely spoken a load of rubbish.
Not at all. Thank you.
Clearer outcomes, fewer surprises. Try Scottish Widows' underwriting outcome tool for an upfront view, then track cases in real time with our new business dashboard. For more information about Scottish Widows and the support it provides to advice firms, speak to our business development team by emailing protectsales@lloydsbanking.com.